to turn that switch on to 100% volume. And it's funny because I talk about this when I deal with a lot of women's classes and stuff like that. The difference between guys and women, to me, is really quite simple. Guys have a switch that has a volume control on it. So when a guy goes up to the stereo, he turns the stereo on and then he can adjust the volume. When a woman goes into action, there's a big difference. Because a woman is not generally a gal who's played football and basketball and King of the Hill and all that good stuff and knows where and how to do this. Oh, he's not trying that hard, so I'm in parity with him and all that. I'll tell you what, when a woman is triggered into action, it's usually because of one of two things. Her little one is threatened, or she is threatened. When the woman goes up to the stereo and turns it on, the volume is at 100%. And when she turns it on, it's boom! And it's all there, ready to go. And that is the reason, that is one of the reasons that a 400-pound grizzly can kill an 800-pound male, a 400-pound female grizzly can kill an 800-pound male grizzly. That's impossible. But it happens. Because when the female woman is called into action, there is no mind. There is no self-doubt. There is no, he's stronger than me. There is nothing. There is only destruction of that threat. That is it. It's black and white. We don't generally have that, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we can get to that point. Because we do have the ability to turn our volume up. Can I go to 10? Don't know. I think I can. But if I don't start thinking about how do I get get a workup to do that, I'll never really know if I can. So again, when we talk about training and some of that stuff in a couple minutes, we're going to talk about you got to ramp that switch up, because if you're not training at 150% with an extreme intensity of violence and aggressive action, then you're going to sell yourself short. Because I'll tell you what, if you think about it, sprinters don't train by jogging. They train by sprinting. They train by exploding out of the blocks. They train by getting that huge explosion of the upper body as they come up out of their stance and run down that, I usually say 100-yard dash line, which again dates me quite a bit. It's a 100-meter race since the 70s. They learn to sprint by sprinting. They don't learn to sprint by jogging. You can jog and all that as part of an auxiliary exercise program or whatever, but I'll tell you what, you gotta train at full speed. You gotta train. You gotta think at full speed. Fatigue makes cowards of us all. How important is that? How true is that? I've been there a bunch of times. I just can't go any further. I can't get any more out of me. But you know what? Yes, you can. It ain't over till it's over. And if you still have breath coming in and out of your lungs, then by God, you still have gas left. And I'll tell you something right now. I will tell you this for a fact. I don't care who you are. Remember I mentioned the affirmations, the quote by Muhammad Ali? I'm going to tell you this right now. Two things. The toughest son of a bitch that walks upon the face of this earth every day, without question, is a 125-pound Marine who just graduated from boot camp. By God, that is a fact. There is no tougher human being on this earth. Why is that? How can a 120-pound guy be that tough? You know why? Because he knows you're not tougher than me. You are not tougher than me. You will never outgas me. You will never beat me, and I will never give up. I will never, ever, ever, ever give up. If I'm breathing, I'm fighting. By God, there is no, you can cut my legs off, and I will fight you to the death. I guarantee you, I am not done. And that is the reason, again, why they are so tough, okay? They know they're tough. It's been drilled into them. You are a Marine. By God, you will never let your buddy down. You will never give up, and you will never be outgassed. Now, I'll tell you this right now. How important is that? Affirmations. That 120-pound guy, a big guy can pick him up and throw him across the room. But by God, he will die fighting. Okay? Because it is an affirmation that's become a conviction in his every fiber of his soul. And I'll tell you what, you have to think about this. You have to believe it. You have to understand it. You will never outgas me. I'll tell you what, you may outstrength me, you may outbeat, you might hurt me, but I'm guaranteeing you this one thing. You will never outgas me. Not one person in this room will ever outgas me. I have gas left when you are sucking wind, laying on the ground, puking your guts out. You will never outgas me, ever. Because I will not let that be a factor. Something that I can control, again, when I talked about controlling the environment and doing the things, never do anything that's not useful. By God, I will be in the utmost, never give up physical shape that I can be for the rest of my life at every single moment in time, okay? If you're a police officer or a military guy, actually more military guy than police officer, because I know a lot of police officers that don't spend a lot of time staying in shape, but the military knows it because their whole life is bread and butter about running and going places under heavy physical exertion. You cannot let fatigue become a factor in protecting your life or the lives of innocent ones, okay? You have to know you will never be outgassed. Now, are there guys in here who can run longer than me? Probably. Are there guys that can fight longer than me? Probably. Are there guys that can wrestle longer than me? Probably. But I'll tell you what, in here, I don't care, because you will never outgas me, because it is a conviction in my mind that even though you might be better conditioned than I am, higher cardiovascular success rate or whatever, in here you will not beat me, okay? You will not beat me in my conviction, okay? I'm not bragging, because I'm saying, again, there are guys that can run 50 miles or even 150 miles. So I am nowhere near that, but I'll tell you what, in here, I have more left than they do. And that is part of what I'm going to be talking about. Now, in terms of self-defense and the ability to fight, one of the things that's important to me is, again, in the way I teach a lot of the stuff that I do, is what works for the average man. Not what works for the guy who works out 22 hours a day. I don't really care about that. What works for the average guy, because honest, no matter who you are, you don't have the time, because we have responsibilities, we have jobs, everything else. We can't spend all our time learning how to fight or learning how to shoot. You take that time when you can and make the best use of it. You make it more efficient so that it works more in the shorter amount of time that you have. But everything that you do really has got to work for the average man. So what we did, or what I did, and what I looked at over the years was two things. And again, this is a full day of training and lecture kind of condensed down into 1 hour, so I'm going to bounce around a little bit. But one of the things that I want you to understand also is you can do things to your body and your mind and convince it and regroup it and retrain it and restructure it and resculpt it into a better performing machine. And one of the things that I do a lot with guys is, again, I don't want to teach you something new. I don't want to come in and teach you French or Spanish or Chinese when we all speak Russian. I'll teach you Russian, or I'll teach you how to speak Russian better. That's kind of what I'm about. I'm not unlearning people, and I'm not saying that what you're doing is wrong because you learned it from this guy or that. I don't really give a damn about any of that. I don't care if you're judo, karate, whatever. I just want you to be a fighter, okay? That's the key ingredient, is to be a fighter. So I looked at all of this stuff over the years, and I've been at it for a 3 decades or more now, and said, okay, how am I going to make myself better at what I do? How am I going to make some of the improvements? Well, again, body mechanics is one thing, and we'll talk about that briefly in a moment. But I want to prove to you, or at least make you aware of something. You can actually train some of the quote-unquote instinctual reactions that you have. You can modify them, even though, and I mean, honest to God, I've had arguments with guys, and no, things are hardwired in. That's bullshit. They are not hardwired in. They can be modified and they can be trained. And one of the things that I worked with a long time was the startle reflex, okay? Now, let's just say, for example,